Do we need someone to help with macro?
We have like coaches that can help with macro. Like it's not that we, as I said, it's not that we are lacking that knowledge internally. I also think someone like Humanoid, for example, has probably the best macro knowledge, or among the best for sure, but macro knowledge in the whole Western. I think we have also been improving on macro.
Our macro knowledge is not lacking. Humanoid has the best macro knowledge in the West. Being said, unironically, by the Fnatic staff, after they lost their 7th final to G2 in a row, I believe, I have a lot of questions, and yeah, that's why I made this video. We are going to go over some of the biggest mistakes that they made in the final, because I've watched Fnatic all year long, and they've made the same mistakes over and over again for the whole year. I am not convinced. Alright, so we start with game 1. Fnatic in a really strong position here. G2 basically is stuck with a Kalista at 40 minutes, very weak champion at this point in the game. And Fnatic has Smolder, which is infamously very strong late game and has 5 items right now and is ahead in the curve of every other champion in the game. So they have a good position to play with. And yeah, it really comes down to macro at this point, so let's see what they do. And in true Fnatic fashion, they start off with just playing Ara mid lane, which in this situation is okay because nothing much is up. They start engaging on Dr. Mundo. They use all of their cooldowns on Mundo. I think very questionable. They don't have really that much damage when Smolder was still dead. He of course has TP and Flash, so they think this can be a good fight. And yeah, so now this is just a really forced situation. They use so much on Mundo. Cannon really weak engage. I think he shouldn't Flash there either and just gets exhausted and dies. So very forced. Smolder, it was not in sync with Humanoid or with Smolder in general. So what we can notice immediately with G2 is immediately they go to the side lanes and they've used this time to fix the side lane. They got a lot of tempo with the kill on Cannon. So Corki goes top, Mundo goes bot lane, and they can all reset at a similar time and then play the game together. So this is really good. Now Fnatic is catching the waves, which is normal. But yeah, they kind of wasted a bit of their position already. So now we can already see top mid and AD carry are sharing mid lane, which is just very inefficient and doesn't progress the game at all. Quite interesting. Also Ezreal has to base anyway, so it's just a waste of time. Meanwhile, Corki is again going bot lane already. And this is the one problem that Fnatic has in this game, is Corki is much stronger in side lane than all of their champs. So it is, I have to admit, it is not the easiest to play this part, but everything else they could do a lot better. So yeah, now when we go forward a bit more, we see again the group mid, while G2 is pushing down side lanes. And we have basically a similar situation like before. And Fnatic, very low imagination, I would say. They can't really engage on Zyra there because she has Banshees, and they just push mid. And nothing is really happening. They can't get the inhibs, and now they don't have side lanes either to rotate to. But still now they have a really strong option that they can do, because when we look at the map, Nashor is spawning really soon, same with Dragon. I think when they have Nashor, they just win the game. This is much easier to close out with the Nashor. They don't really need the soul, so they should focus on the Nashor. So in this position, what can you do? Basically what you have to do is you have enough time. If we go back like 10 seconds before that, you have the time here to basically go back through the G2's topside jungle, ward the important positions, and then you can either recall or you can kind of stall their approach there. So this is kind of what you should do, because you don't want it to make it easy for G2 to proceed. G2 doesn't really have great engage, so besides Rakan, so it's really not easy for them. So usually what you should do, you should go together, you should ward here, 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 probably. These 3 wards. Maybe you can ward like here or something. But instead what they do is they just waste time mid lane, then they ward here, which is useless, and here is okay. And but they don't have any control over the topside jungle, which is the key point, which they need if they want to go for the Nashor. So you want to clear all the wards from G2 and you want to ward these areas, but they don't do any of it. So this whole mid lane push we just saw, completely worthless. It didn't do anything. And now they're just standing here around, not doing anything. Meanwhile, they could have already cleared all of Nashor and kind of played the game actually, but they don't do anything. For the last like 2-3 minutes, we have seen nothing besides group mid and look if something happens, basically. This is what Fnatic does here. So this is just really bad, and this is just not doing anything. Meanwhile, Caps is again threatening topside because he knows they are just really indecisive, and he makes it really he makes it more difficult for them to play like that. And now it gets really hard, because now Nasher spawns, but you have zero control over this area, which is the key point that Fnatic has to accomplish. And Dragon is spawning too, which is gives you even more decisions to make. So yeah, this is just really a lot of inactivity and indecisiveness by Fnatic. No clue how to proceed to set up a Nasher, which is, I think, at their level they should be able to do that. But now G2 just gets complete control over the area, and also Caps can just push top lane for free. And now the situation already is really not that great for them again. Because now we can see Mundo is already going to Dragon, he's going to start the Dragon. They could have also sent Kalista, I think, which is maybe even better. But yeah, now Fnatic is really in this kind of position where they have to decide, okay, what do we do? Maybe we can rush the Nasher, or maybe we try to engage. Like, they don't really have a clue, and they don't really have control of any position on the map. So they basically gave all the control to G2 and all the decisions to G2, which is just, they shouldn't have to do with such a strong Smolder and such a strong late game team. So now they just lose everything. They lose Dragon, they lose Soul, and Caps is threatening the inhib top lane, while they just did nothing. They just tried a really bad engage, but nothing happened. So now you can notice, actually, Caps is thinking Fnatic is maybe a bit better than they are, and they would at least try to use their bot lane wave for an instance. But of course they just all go mid lane. So yeah, so he didn't really have to TP, to be honest. But we can see here he's just standing there and waiting because he thinks maybe one of them is going to catch the wave. And as I said earlier, he's strong on level 1v1, so it can be quite a surprise then for Fnatic. But yeah, of course they don't play side lanes, they just catch them. So nothing really happens there. We see him still standing there, which is kind of funny, and now he realizes nobody's coming, so I just clear the minions. So yeah, G2 just got everything they want. Meanwhile, Fnatic just did nothing with all of their position. You can, of course, pushing mid lane can give you a lot of access to areas, but then you have to use it and kind of go back and gain control. But yeah, like this, it's just useless. Next thing we see is June going bot lane. So I think June in general a really bad series by him. First, I think he should order the team around to do this, gain the topside control and not waste swords. But also his engages were really forced and not good. And now I think he's committing a bit too much bot lane. He's as I said, Corki wins 1v1, so he kind of wants to cover his laner so he doesn't just die 1v1. Problem is G2 is already standing at Nasher, so he can't show at all. He can't show, and he shouldn't go all the way. He should kind of hover here or something, so he can get there quite quickly. But he should not go all the way down and just show his position, because then G2 has 5v3 and they know they can go for it. Again, a kind of desperate engage by Cannon doesn't work that well. And now G2 basically got Nasher, they got the Dragon Soul, and they got side lanes, and they got a gold lead now. So just really terrible for Fnatic overall. The result is them losing all of their inhibs because of the Nasher for G2, the Elder Dragon, and in the end the game. Big throw by Fnatic. I think they had a really good chance to win this game, but they just didn't know what to do. It reminds me way too much of their performance in Winter Playoffs, where they just had no clue how to play the late game at all.
I think we have also been improving on macro.
Alright, so we jump into game 3. And this time it's more of a mid-game situation, so not late game. Late game, I have to admit, is always the hardest to make decisions. Mid-game, it's a lot about setups and knowing where to be. So here it starts off with G2 having a really, really good setup for the Dragon, which is going to spawn in 15 seconds. They have a really, really good wards, really good vision. They are also already there. So, yeah. A logical thing to do for any team would be to just not contest this, because this is not going to win you or lose you the game. So let's see what they decide to do. So the Dragon, as I said, barely able to contest. But what does Oscarin do here? Wait, I have to see this again actually. Okay, so interestingly, Oscarinen completely oblivious to the whole situation, just eating into the Cassandra. It's not even like a Kalista or something where he might actually kill him. So yeah, no clue what he's trying to do there. And it shouldn't be even be on his mind to do this, because they should already know that they will concede this dragon. But yeah, he just dies for no reason, and then June follows up as well. We can look at June for a moment. So June is just face checking here and going straight in as well. Like, even if you want to help your top lane, that's just not possible. He's way too far off. Completely unnecessary deaths. Meanwhile, they could have done something completely different. So what they should have done, if we go back for a moment, instead of doing whatever this is and just running into G2 and then dying, what they could have done is they could have played with this mid lane wave. I don't know how much health the first turret has. If it's low, they can go for it. If not, this is fine. And then they can transition to topside with their Corki, go for the second tier and the jungle. And they at least get something in return. And then they can reset after that. They reset and then they protect their bot lane. Because for sure, what G2 can do is then try to go for the second tier bot lane. So this is kind of what they should try to do. And what their thought process should be, and not let's contest 4v5 the dragons somehow without any vision, without anything. So yeah, but they don't do any of this. At least in this case, Humanoid does the right thing and just keeps pushing and doesn't TP for no reason. So they at least get the second tier, I believe. But now we have the problem, as I said earlier, Caps really played well the series. He's immediately going bot and going for the second tier, and now, because Fnatic didn't do all of what I said earlier, nobody is there to protect it. So this just really sucks for them, and G2 just comes out ahead quite a lot from this play. Now this TP is completely crazy for me. I have no clue what's going on with this teleport. He probably thinks, okay, maybe we can use this small timer and go for Caps here. This is maybe what he's thinking, okay. If you think a bit further ahead, I think it's just such a risky play, because you know all of G2 is at the dragon, so they are not far off. And Azir is not that easy to kill at this point with his E up. So yeah, they just trade. They just trade 2 for 1, which is terrible. They lose their TP for this. Like, the timing here is completely off with the teleport. Like, maybe if he does it at a slightly different timer, it can kind of work, but even then it's such a forced bad play. It's the kind of play I do when I'm on my 10-game losing streak or something. Like, this is just really not good, really bad decision making by Humanoid.
Someone like Humanoid, for example, has probably the best macro knowledge, among the best for sure, but macro knowledge in the whole Western.
So late game was too hard, mid game was too hard, now we are in an early game situation. And again, Fnatic with a lead, as per usual, because G2's early games really suck right now. And Fnatic is really good at playing early game. But again, they do a lot of basic mistakes. Like in this case, they don't understand who they should play around, which is not that hard to understand if you watch a couple of LCK games maybe. Like right now, when you have a Ziggs, you play with a Ziggs and you have a 3k gold lead, what you should do is you should play around your Ziggs. So you should try to get all the first tier turrets here, and you should try to get the Herald. These are your main objectives, but they play away from the Ziggs here. They just engage on Cassandra with like, of course you don't have any damage here to do this. Like, what are they thinking? I don't know. They just concede Herald. Like, they should have for sure set up for the Herald here. Meanwhile, Ziggs is just staying mid and doing nothing. And they are forced into like a really bad cross-map play here in bot lane, because they think, okay, we have to do something, which just doesn't work. So they play away from all of their strong points. They play away from their Renekton, who is 2k ahead. He's really strong right now. And they play away from their Ziggs, which is just a really good champion when you are ahead early game. So they don't use any of what they have. And also the problem is, in the 1v1, Ziggs is not really the one that is going to win versus Jhin. So he can't even move first. So you don't play for him, and he can't also play with you, kind of. So it's just a complete waste of the Ziggs. Like, he's not doing anything. You also play away, as I said, from your Renekton who's just stuck on the side lane. Like, what are these plays? Like, why do you play this this kind of way? And you again just throw your situation around because you don't do a proper Herald setup. If you like this video, like, subscribe, comment, whatever you feel like, and I will see you on the next one.